psychologist by background, strategy consultant and a football dad. What that you should know upfront about that is I'm not a coach. I don't coach football. I work with coaches to try and extract the optimum conditions for the development of young footballers. So in terms of technical, tactical skills, I don't get involved in that. I obviously have opinions, but that's where we leave it. And most of the stuff I've learned about football, it comes from being a football dad, which is its own unique challenge. So very briefly, the Evo Way is something that began in Sheffield in the UK about 12 or 13 years ago. It's a multidisciplinary approach. It has sports psychology inputs, sports science, neuroscience, physiology, systems thinking, various educational models. So it's a multidisciplinary approach, and then obviously a lot of input from football coaches and other sport coaches. It's now available, or aspects of the Evo Way program are available in 18 countries. And in a nutshell, in one sentence, what the Evo Way is it's a framework to support the development journey of young footballers and other athletes in high performance environments. So, I mean, Sean was talking about how every young player has a unique journey. The Evo Way is a way of helping to ensure that that journey is optimized for that particular player. Its applications can be in sports programs, in individual player management, and that can even be at a professional level, in schools, not just in sport, but also in education and promoting leadership, in teams, obviously, and then in organizations. So, you know, team building and whatever sort of strategic outcomes the organization is looking for. Just to quickly mention and give credit, part of the Evo Way, or substantial part of the Evo Way, is based on a program called the Performance Development System. This was developed by, an English, well, British former military officer by the name of Mark Bennett. You'll see MBE. He was awarded an MBE by the late Queen for his work in developing this system. We haven't got time to tell you about the PDS system. It's in what we do, and obviously with everything, I'm really just running through 20-minute overview of the Evo Way. I mean, it would take weeks to give everything. But we're around the whole weekend, and that's why I mentioned who people are. If you've got any questions, please feel free to come on. So just to mention, PDS is currently being applied in some UK Premier League clubs. Mark insists that he's not allowed to tell us which ones. I have a suspicion that it may be because some clubs that aren't doing too well, but he says it's confidentiality, so we'll go with that. It's in the US in National Basketball Association teams, National Football, the Gridiron football teams, the ice hockey and NHL teams. Team Great Britain, the Olympic teams, are utilizing it, and he's working with elite golfers, athletes, tennis players, and so on. Okay, so as a psychologist, and I think when Sean was speaking, I mean, obviously I was getting, really excited about, I think what he was talking a lot about, without spelling it out, is the experience of young footballers. And that's what always has fascinated me. So there's some research that was done in the UK on parents. Well, interviews were done with parents of players in Tier 1 academies, so your elite, top-level UK football academies. And a couple of years of research led to the researchers identifying that players and parents go through 4 distinct phases in their football journeys. So each player's journey is separate or individual, but they kind of share these stages in common. It doesn't mean that every single player will necessarily experience this, but this is the general trend. And I'm sure as coaches, I think you'll probably recognize this. So young players always start excited and amazed. I mean, in the Evo Way, we call it the love the ball phase. I know my son, aged 6, 7, 8, used to go to sleep with a soccer ball under his arm at night. I mean, he doesn't do that anymore. He's not excited and amazed. He's stressed and he's trying to focus and get his career going. But the young ones, I mean, they don't lack courage. They've just got a huge dream. They're going to become the next Ronaldo, the next Mark Fish, the next Messi, whatever the case is. And then, I know. Okay. Then as they go a little older, maybe around 13, 14, again a differs for each player, we call it the dawning of reality. So now it's suddenly like, maybe I'm not invincible after all. Maybe I'm not as great as I think I am. Plus, and now, hopefully at age 6, 7, 8, and coaches aren't giving critical feedback to players of that age. As they go on in years, coaches have to become more honest. If you can't kick a ball, you've got to tell them they can't kick a ball, they can't pass, whatever. So it's the dawning of reality, and that can be quite a shock to the system for these players. And then they go into an acceptance and rationalizing phase. Now that means they either come to terms with it. Okay, the best I'm going to be is maybe I'll play at a semi-pro level, or maybe 3rd division in Germany, but I'm not going to be La Liga or Premier League or whatever the case is. The rationalizing can be sometimes a bit destructive because, we spoke a lot now about biases and so on, but that's where you have players come, and we at Evo have experienced it, or their parents will come. It's your fault my kid hasn't got there. You held him back. You just didn't like him, so you didn't select him. You kept him on the bench. And that's a way of them rationalizing why all that excitement and amazement and their big dreams they see flying out the window. And then if they stick around, that's the important thing, they get to a phase of resetting goals. And that can be one of the most crucial parts of development football. Because often you have to sit with these players and give blunt, honest feedback. It's not impossible, nothing's impossible, but statistically speaking, and where you are now, you're not headed for a pro career. Or you're certainly not headed for the absolute top level pro career. Okay. Exit and dropout points. The thing is, and I think people involved in maybe not academies, sort of premier PSL level academies, but grassroots club, that it's a pyramid effect. Your greatest player numbers are the younger ages, and as you grow up, you find it a bit more difficult to field teams. And that's because players drop out as they go through these phases. Okay. So what we want to do, the Evo Way is aimed at really, once you can get a player to reset goals, try and reignite the excitement and the enthusiasm for the new goal. And we call it the journey from leisure to high performance, which I'll come back to just now. Commitment and sacrifice is one of the key things we emphasize to young players and their parents. You don't need me to tell you that. And the importance of peer support, which we're going to talk about now. So our motto or slogan in the Evo Way is, the story is yours. It's a way of saying each player has their own unique journey. You decide how the story goes. And that's not meaning unrealistic, I'll score winning goal in the World Cup final, but realistically, the player determines how the story develops. And, you know, players come in and their parents, and they're so focused on the ultimate destination, where they want to get, that they completely forget the journey is 1,000 steps or more. And so in the Evo Way, and when we work with coaches and do mentoring with them and so on, we constantly say, focus on the journey, focus on the next job, the next step. Not a year from now or 5 years from now. What do you do when you get up tomorrow? What do you do next week? Okay. So, okay.
Dave, we can see all the pictures on your iPhone now.
So the Evo Way framework really comprises 4 components. And again, I'm going to really rush through these and forgive me. There's key principles, there's an approach to learning, or in fancy terms, the pedagogy, the philosophy of learning and the application of how it's learned, what we call the toolkit and the lighthouse. Now, you're going to see on the net, all the good. Yeah. So you're going to see a lot of these. I'm not going to talk through all of them now. If any one of them piques your interest and you think, you didn't mention it. As I said, we're around the whole weekend. That's what we do. What I do want to say again, because it reinforces exactly what Sean was saying, and I was sitting there thinking, yes, each journey is different. You can't treat 2 players in exactly the same way. You can't think there's a one-size-fits-all approach to coaching and development, because then some players are going to lose out. So we call it the non-linearity of each journey. I think that's quite clear. And again, not all of them. Okay. The point I want to emphasize, or a couple of points in this slide, our approach to learning. And again, I think, you know, what fascinates me is that I think that last question or comment, example Sean was giving about don't let the ball bounce, or no bounce. And of course, between is a problem of communication. So does the player hear what you intend? And a very simple example, and it happened in a match I was present at, where the coach in the pre-match talk says, I want to see every one of you give absolute passion on that field today. And then one of his players goes out and before half-time headbutts an opposition player and gets red carded. And after the match, he's like, why did you lose your head? He says, you said I must play with passion. Now that, to him, passion means aggression. It means get stuck in. What the coach meant by passion, be courageous. You know, when you take it through and you say to the coach, but pretend I don't understand the word passion. How would you explain it? Oh, well, being courageous, not giving up, encouraging your teammates. Well, why didn't you ask for that? So effective communication is the fundamental path to success, not just in football, but in relationships. I mean, we know all the marital problems that can ensue where one person's talking one language and another's talking a completely different language. And I want to go to the second last point, which is the Evo Way also helps you as coaches to empower players to make decisions and effective decisions. So, and it's coaches find this challenging because Dean Mapson, who's started the Evo Way program, always, when he talks to coaches, I don't have the courage to do it here. But if he was talking, he'd stand up and his opening line would probably be, our goal is to make coaches redundant. No, I mean, that's scary because it's saying our goal
Eddie Jones
is to take you out of a job. Well, that's obviously not really true. But what he means is if you can get your team to a point where they make the decisions, you can just focus on the biggest strategic issues. Where are we going as a club, as a team, is this, that? And so one of the ways that we help coaches to work with that is what we call player first and player last. So halftime talk. Players will start. We think, or a player will put his hand up, I think we're not pressing high enough. And another player may say, I agree. And then the third player is, so lads, how are we going to fix it? And then they'll have a quick talk and come in. And then they'll say to the coach, well, we want to do this. The coach is like, well, if you all agree, fine, go do it. Of course they'll make mistakes, but that's the best way you learn. I know that's a cliche, but there's truth to it. And player and coach reviews, I'll mention rather in the next slide, which is the toolkit. Okay, don't worry about session types. Setting success criteria for training and matches is fairly critical. So, because without it, players are kind of, if you're really honest, we're honest with ourselves, we kind of do a fairly critical self-reflection. A lot of the time we leave players a bit in the dark. I mean, they kind of gather that the coach wants them to win. Okay, I mean, it shows in your body language, sometimes it shows it's obvious in what you have to say, or you're shouting from the touchline. So they get that. But do we really want development football to be about winning equals we doing great, loss equals we are shit? I mean, we don't want that. I hope. So you've got to think differently about success criteria. So again, in our work with coaches, I mean, and we try and it's flexible enough to suit your own character and personality and what you think success is. But we help you to think, in a given match, what is success, apart from the scoreline? Obviously, winning 10-0 is successful. But, so for example, it may be, and this is what you'd almost negotiate and agree with your team, how many passes do you think we should make in each half of this match? 200, 250. I mean, a junior level football, you probably, if you make 250 completed passes in each half, you're doing really well. I mean, I know the other night, I won't mention the teams, but in a Premier League match, I mean, the losing team made 774 completed passes, and they lost. But in junior football, it doesn't really happen. So it may be completed passes. It may be, another example of a success criteria is, if we lose the ball, let's try and regain it within 4 seconds. And you can measure that objectively. You can measure completed passes. I mean, we have coaches that stand with clickers, counters, whatever you call them, clickers. Yeah. So, every time there's and we get the subs on the bench to do it, because it gets them involved in the match. Click, click, click. And then they'll give feedback at half time. You can sit with a stopwatch. Right. We lost possession, we regained within 4 seconds. That's one. How many times did we fail to regain in 4 seconds? I mean, you could carry on talking about this for a whole day, because it obviously depends on what you feel the tactical emphasis or technical emphasis needs to be. Right. I think cold reviews is something, I mean, we've got some of our coaches here, and I think some of them have got really into it and do it brilliantly, and others initially were like, do I have to do this? But then they realize the value of it. So a hot review is immediately when the final whistle goes. In the Evo Way, the coach will talk to the players and do a hot review. Hot review, hot meaning we're still in the emotion of the moment. So if we won, we're excited, And again, it's a cognitive mindset. If we won, we feel in that moment we played brilliantly, we dominated. If we lost, we just shit. And then you wake up the next day and think, you know what, we actually didn't play that badly. We actually had a lot of good opportunities. Well, their goal in the last minute actually looked offside. That was a bit unlucky on us. So that's a cold review. And you learn so much with the difference between a hot review and a cold review. It teaches you a lot about you as a coach. You know, how much do I need to dial down on the emotion of the moment? Because if your hot reviews and your cold reviews tend to be completely different, it tells you that what you're saying to the players after matches probably is a bit harsh. Or maybe you're praising them too much. Don't worry, boys, you know, girls, you played brilliantly, and then a cold review can often happen in the car on the way home. Actually, they were really crap. Why did I tell them they played brilliantly? Okay, so, and we formalize it with, coaches will actually do a selfie video of their hot and cold reviews, and there's a whole peer support mechanism where Evo Way coaches around the world will post their reviews, and, you know, and then say, gee, I really think I messed that up. And another coach from Argentina or wherever will step in and say, look, I've been there so many times. This is how I learned to get around that issue. So you actually get that learning. What's the time doing on?
Yeah, we're right.
Okay.
Yeah, about another 5, 7 minutes.
5-7 minutes. I'd like to waste 3 minutes of that on player typologies, because this is, as a psychologist, what fascinates me. So you'll see the terms assassins, sheep, and ninjas, and you probably think that has nothing to do with football. So in the Evo Way, we identify 3 different types of players. And start watching tomorrow, because I've been walking around today and I've seen all 3 types. Assassins are the most dangerous players, and you won't often recognize them. Assassins are the one, and I'm again speeding through this in a nutshell, they just complain when things aren't going their way, their body language implodes, and they start having a negative effect on all the players around them. And they start turning on their players. You're playing rubbish today, that pass was crap. You can't shoot to save your life. And off the field, it's, you know why we're not doing well, guys? It's the coach. It's the club management. And the parents get involved. And I'm pretty, if any of you who coach have never been in that situation, you're truly blessed. But it's going to head your way. So those are assassins. The sheep are the quiet ones. You probably don't notice them. In a trial situation like you've got now, the sheep are the ones that the scouts often miss, because they're just getting on with the job. Their work rate is high. They're a team player. If they think another player in their team has a better chance at scoring a goal, they set it up for them instead of taking the glory shot that we know is not going to go in. Those are your sheep, but if you ask them to speak up, they probably won't. You know, it's not that they're shy, they don't want to have the light shining on them. Okay? And then the ninjas are the stars, but not just with the ball. They're the stars that can really take your team forward. The ninjas are the ones who, the player takes a shot and misses or makes a defensive error and the opposition score. It's the ninjas that will go up and lift them off the ground and say, come on, forget about it, focus on the next task. You know you can do better, it's okay. The ninjas are the ones that, if the player's injured, will probably be the first ones there to say, you're right, what's wrong? You need the medical. The ninjas are the ones who will stay behind after a session and pack the equipment up. And they can be the real leaders on the field and off the field. So in the Evo Way, we give you the tools to identify these players and understand that if you can convert your assassins to assassins that actually can be converted. I know it sounds probably like evangelical here, but assassins are actually not that difficult to convert into ninjas. You need to sit down one-on-one with them for a few mentoring sessions. Talk about their anger, talk about their disappointment. Tell them you can see the seeds of real leadership in them, but this is what has to happen for that to come out. The sheep, you almost don't want to change. They're productive, they're happy, they're enjoying their football. Why do you, if you try and turn them into a ninja, they're going to become pressured and unhappy. And the ninjas, you just got to support what they're doing. So that's just a fun way of looking at it. Yep. Right? Okay, and then the lighthouse, three things. And we help clubs, schools, whatever, put this in place. The vision, who we are, why are we here, where are we going? And that includes the success criteria. The values, which is what do we stand for? Okay? And then leadership, which is to create a facilitating environment. And when things are going tough in a team or club, we say, let's go back to the lighthouse, because let's just stop and reflect. What's our, at the beginning of the season, what were those success criteria we set? Oh, we said so long as we end in the top half of the league. Well, now we're sitting third in the league and we're complaining because we lost the match. So hang on, let's go back to the lighthouse. At the beginning of the season, we said we'd be quite happy to just be in 8th position with its top half, or whatever the case is. Okay. These are just, Evo's very much a values-based model. We give kids formal ways and semi-formal ways and mentoring to really develop a set of values, respect, humility, unity. And then the last one, which I really cannot go into, but if anyone is interested in this, as I say, please, Jackie wrote a whole manual on this. I know she doesn't want me. She said, do not say me, but I'm doing it anyhow. She's a ninja and can take it. So 4712 is our own homegrown leadership model. It's 4 pillars of purpose, 7 tests of character, 4 pillars of performance, 7 tests of character, and 12 languages of purpose. And we engage with, so basically players, it's age appropriate. So every age group they jump, obviously the content changes. It's done in a kind of storytelling methodology way. And I'm going to end on this note. I mean, one of the most pleasing things, and as I say, I'm not a coach, our teams, we have our own club, but we do this work with other clubs, obviously. But in our own club, our teams are incredibly successful, and we're very happy with that. But probably the greatest joy I get is when parents come up to me, or teachers come up to me and say, I can't believe what you've done with my kid. At home, he's completely different. He helps out, he's suddenly showing respect to us, or in the classroom or whatever. And that's, for us, what development is really about. Because the reality is, we know, most of these players, statistically, are not going to go and make a living out of playing football. That's a sad reality. But we hope to empower them that whatever they do, they do it to the best they can. So please, as I say, if you, again, Rob, Leandra, Jackie, Marlene, Mark, we're around. If you've got any questions, we're more than happy to sit I was going to say you can just buy me, if it's in the evenings, a beer, but I believe we can get it for free. So, cheap round. But yeah, we're more than happy to talk, and we can email you stuff and whatever. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Just a quick one at 7 o'clock.